Hello, bright souls. In the last video, I spoke to you about Pacal Votan, the great king of Palenque, and today I want to further explore this key figure of the Mayan culture by talking about his sarcophagus, carefully carved with his image, considered to be one of the greatest archaeological findings in all history. If you haven't watched the last video, pause this one and go watch who was Pacal Votan, so we're on the same page with this information. The lid of the sarcophagus is a priceless piece of Mayan art with carvings on the top and the sides made from a single massive limestone. The sarcophagus itself weighs about 15 tons and the lid weighs about 7 tons. It measures 2.2 meters wide and 3.6 meters long. So you can imagine it was a real effort for Alberto Ruz and his team to lift the lid of the sarcophagus. Also, due to its enormous size, it couldn't have fit through the narrow stairway leading down into the tomb from the top of the Temple of Inscriptions. So it's believed that Pacal was first placed in the sarcophagus, the tomb sealed, and then the Temple of Inscriptions was built around it. As you can imagine, there are a few theories regarding what the carvings on the lid represent. The sarcophagus became known worldwide when it appeared in the book Chariot of the Gods by Erich von Daniken, and I'm probably not saying his name right, so sorry about that. The book was published in 1968. In the book, a drawing of the sarcophagus's lid was reproduced, but it was inaccurately labeled as being discovered in the pyramids from Copan. Erich made the association between Pacal's unusual position with the position of the astronauts as they are launching into space, how it seemed as if he is manipulating some controls, and how the heel of his left foot seems to be stepping on a pedal. Thus, Pacal's image became known as the Ancient Spaceman. Historians dismiss the theory, but given what we know about the Mayans and Pacal Votan, I wouldn't fully cast this theory aside. Yes, there are a lot of layers of information, and saying that the carvings on the lid show Pacal Votan flying a spaceship is an oversimplification. But Pacal Votan and the Mayans were time travelers, and the Mayans spoke about how their great masters came from the star system Sirius. And to further dive into this topic, I invite you to watch the video, The Mayan-Syrian Connection. So like I said, I don't dismiss the theory fully, but I believe that the carvings on the lid actually have a much more deeper meaning than that. But, as it usually happens, people took the theory a little too far, even saying things like Pacal was an Anunnaki, and if you're familiar with your aliens, you know that the Anunnaki are said to be no good. And all this just shows how little people knew about who Pacal Votan was and what was the message he carried for humanity. But since this theory was elaborated, Mayan scholars were able to interpret a lot of the carvings on the sarcophagus, helping us reveal its deeper meaning. The interpretation agreed upon by most archaeologists is that the carvings on the lid represent Pacal's death and his descent into the underworlds. But again, I feel that this is an oversimplification. It's important to keep in mind that symbols are like a device that unlock codes on a mental level. The images carved on the sarcophagus consist of different layers of thought which have the power to unlock codes on a mental level. They're kind of like the resonance of a higher dimensional archetypal construct, which facilitates the transfer of information and codes to and from higher dimensions. And the lid of Pacal Votan's sarcophagus is filled with wisdom and information. Also, we need to take into consideration that for the Mayans, carved stone monuments, paintings on their walls, and even woven textile were much more than just decorative objects. They were living objects, each of them with their own soul. Therefore, Mayan art doesn't mimic reality. For them, it was a sacred reality in itself. Kind of like a ceremonial act frozen in time, created and brought to life by the artist, in the same way that the gods created and gave life to the world. So all this being said, let's analyze some of the elements present within the carvings on the lid of the sarcophagus. The lid actually contains hundreds of symbols, including hidden codes, which were discovered by Maurice Cotteral using overlays. So we're not going to look at all of them. We're just going to briefly go over the main elements together. Regarding Pacal's position, which is kind of unusual, most people say it shows him falling into the underworlds, represented at the bottom of the image by two skeletal dragons that form a U-shaped container. This is considered to represent the entrance to Xibalba, the Mayan underworld. Keep in mind that this underworld is nothing like the symbol of hell from Christian tradition. The Mayans had a very different understanding of death. For the Mayans, the sun would set every evening, visiting Xibalba, and it would rise the next day. And because after each sunset there's always dawn, descending into the underworld only means a stage of transition before we are once again reborn. And Pacal Votan, being the yellow galactic sun that he was, will master the forces of Xibalba and be reborn just as the sun is reborn each day at sunrise. Now, if we go back to the lid and we take a closer look at it, his position reminds me more of a fetal position, as if he is indeed ready to be rebirthed. And if we follow the interpretation of the red dragon glyph in the dream spell calendar, which is the archetype of the Divine Mother, the two skeletal dragons make me think of how the Divine Mother of all life is actually opening up to embrace him, to receive him, as his body returns to the earth, but his spirit lifts off towards heaven. Also, underneath, we can see Pacal sitting on top of a creature, which is identified as the quadripartite sun monster. This creature symbolizes the sun and its journey of transition through the cosmos from dawn till dusk, representing a stage of transition between life and death. Also, if we look closely, we'll see that this creature also has the Chimi sign, or the white world bridger, representing the sign of death. And again, the white world bridger has a very different symbolism of death than the one we're used to, referring to the cyclical rhythm of death and change that we see reflected in the natural world. This means that we're actually seeing the journey of Pacal's resurrection rather than his plunging into the underworld. For me, at least, especially given what's happening above him. At first glance, we see what looks like a cross, but it actually represents the world tree, the Mayan conceptual equivalent of the Kabbalah tree of life. The world tree expresses the concept of a vertical pole running through the earth, uniting the heaven, the earth, and the underworld, kind of like a channel of communication between them. The world tree is a symbol of the universe, uniting all parts of the cosmos. Its roots were said to go deep into the underworld. Its trunk represents the material plane where humans live, and its branches reached high into the sky, symbolizing the astral plane. It was believed that the world tree grew at the heart of creation, that everything is flowing out from it into the four directions. The tree is a symbol of the center, the point of absolute beginning, where the sacred energies of the world first came into being. On top of Pacal's tree, we can see an odd-looking bird, which was identified as Yetzam Ye, or the serpent bird, also known as the Quetzal bird. The Quetzal bird was believed to have the power to channel a supernatural force so as to bring order in the cosmos and set the stage for creation. The fact that this bird is present on top of the world tree signifies that the tree is pulsing with sacred, life-giving power. Also, the Quetzal bird is a symbol for what is known as the Kundalini life force energy. So again, to me, this scene looks very much like a cosmic resurrection. The carvings represent not only the resurrection of Pacal, but the resurrection of humanity as well. Pacal is shown ascending, transcending death, and being reborn in the kingdom of heaven, and taking his entire civilization with him. This exquisite image is a symbol of transcendence, speaking to us of a world beyond our world. From his body, the world's tree sprouts, maintaining the cosmos. Pacal Votan carried within him, just like the world tree, the seed of a new life, one where people can live in harmony with one another and with their environments. Pacal was a wise man, a mystic, a prophet, a messenger with a very special mission to release the codes of the law of time, the dream spell, and Telektenon, helping us correct the error of artificial time and helping us align to the natural time. Also, we'll cover this in the next video, but on Pacal's sarcophagus there are 13 kins on the edges of the lid, which are also known as the clear signs of Pacal Votan. So that's kind of it for today. If you have any questions about the Dream Spell calendar, or if you want to book a galactic signature decoding session with me, you can send me a message either on my Facebook page, my Instagram, or on my email. Also, I've set the dates for the next online workshop, Initiation into the Dream Spell Calendar, on the first and second week of the Overtone month, days 5 and 6, or in the Gregorian calendar on the 19th, 20th of November and the 26th, 27th of November. You'll find the link to the event in the description of this video, and don't forget that registration is needed in order to participate. So, wishing you an amazing day in Lak'Ech.